Hello. Today's presentation is to discuss how to use security video to reduce risk associated with maintaining compliance in our new normal. We are all using video conferencing to communicate amid the pandemic. It promotes social distancing, it limits employees' exposure due to travel, not to mention the overall cost reduction for travel, and allows employees to meet with internal and external customers more frequently. The downside of this is the cost to implement this technology. There's the complexity of setting up VPN networks to reduce cybersecurity, the cost to provide more robust networks not only at the site but at employees' home, and scrambling to find good webcams and speakers while the supply chain for technology are diminishing. So why can't we use some of the technology already developed in our facilities to gain some of these efficiencies? When we look at OSHA's website on COVID-19, it expresses that employers should assess the hazards to which their workers may be exposed, evaluate the risk of exposure, and select, implement, and ensure workers use control to prevent exposure. Additionally, the CDC's website on COVID-19 tells employers to limit travel for multi-store personnel to only what is required for critical facility functions. Whenever possible, conduct conversations through phone calls. It also states that you should leverage camera systems to remotely view facilities as opposed to physically visiting the location. Typically, security video is used for investigational purposes. Occasionally, there might be an officer that is doing a live investigation of a parking lot of a store, but for the most part, the video is just recorded on a device at the store. Compliance is not going away. If anything, it's growing. In today's world of doing more with less, compounded by the risk of COVID-19 exposure, I believe that there's a tremendous amount of information on these systems that is completely underutilized. For example, in a retail setting, there are regional managers that need to see what's going on within a store, be it heat mapping analytics or need to see the end cap on a regular basis. This requires planning to prioritize which store to visit first, and then the travel logistics associated with it. There may be 2 stores that are located in between the first store of priority and the second store of priority, but there's not enough time to visit all 4 in a single day. Imagine giving access to the store's surveillance systems. Now they could look at dozens of stores in the time it took to just plan the trip itself. But maybe the video isn't enough to prevent a site visit, but it can give them enough information so that they can better prioritize which stores need to be seen and which ones do not. Operational managers are not ordinarily given access to security video for a variety of reasons. For example, permissions need to be given, the software needs to be installed in the device, the manager might not be trained in the software. Many of these are easily overcome, but I believe the biggest obstacle is the network infrastructure. Multiple people viewing cameras on a network can cause strain on the available bandwidth, as well as the recording devices themselves. Salient's dynamic resolution scaling has always greatly reduced the bandwidth concern, but recently we have introduced a new product called ProxyCast that takes it to a whole new level. Let me first explain how video management systems process multiple requests for video. As you can see here, each request for video requires a separate stream from the site to the client station. The more people that need access to the video, the more bandwidth that is needed. This makes it impossible for network administrators to know how to size the necessary bandwidth. Typically, these administrators only give out the bare minimum to security, as there are more important functions the bandwidth is being used for, like credit card transactions, which is the revenue stream for the company. What they need to understand now is that the reduction in travel and limited exposure of employees during this travel can also be a source of revenue. So now that I've explained the challenges with allowing multiple people to access video on a traditional video management system, let me show you how ProxyCast can solve these issues. So instead of each client connecting to the site separately, the clients can now connect to the ProxyCast server located in a data center with high bandwidth capabilities. The ProxyCast server can now request a single stream and then rebroadcast that single stream out to multiple clients. So now it doesn't matter how many people access a particular camera, the bandwidth necessary is the same low, consistent amount. Also, now you only need one high bandwidth connection at the data center instead of having to increase the bandwidth at each store. Now imagine a scenario where there's a need for several people to look at the same camera in an emergency event. Local authorities, corporate security, operations all need to view a single camera for situational awareness. All of this needed access without ProxyCast could potentially cause latency and video loss. But ProxyCast can help you rapidly scale up without an issue, allowing multiple people to view a camera at a single instance. The ProxyCast server can also be an added level of cybersecurity by limiting the number of people that have access to the site directly. So ultimately, allowing access to security video outside of the security department does present some challenges. But ultimately, the use cases as presented here, among others, present most companies with a tremendous return on investment. Also, the reduction of risk of exposure offers a value without measure.